and let us all do we can to build a better future. Of right-wing extremists. We're seeing a little splintering right now because of what's happening in the Middle East. That's something that alarms some people in the Biden world. Well, gee, we've been saying this for quite some time that Democrats are always going to ignore their constituents. But apparently, hey, Morning Joe is saying that progressives are being polite. Well done, progressives. You're being polite. When you constantly compromise to the Democrats, they're going to keep on ignoring you.
Notice this since Joe Biden's been president. I'll say it again. The progressives have been extraordinarily patient. Yep. They've been the opposite of the right-wing extremists. They've actually progressives have kept the bigger goal in mind. We need to win elections.
Keep the bigger goal in mind. Win elections, get screwed over. Win elections, get screwed over. Get nothing in return, but still win elections.
We need to have Joe Biden continue to appoint federal judges. We need to win governors. I mean, progressives have done the opposite of what the extremes in the Republican Party have done. And it shows. Because of that, because of progressives working with moderates, they just keep winning elections.
I was going to say, look at the result.
Hey, do you feel like you're winning? If you were a progressive and voted Democrat, type 1 for, yeah, Kent, I'm winning all the time. It's the best feeling in the world. It's good to compromise with the Democrats and get nothing. Type 2, man, I'm not winning. It sucks. We're getting suckered by the Democrats.
Yeah. Look at last Tuesday. Look at 2022. It goes on and on and on. And to Elise's
point, they're right, Joe. The progressives have been remarkably disciplined and patient. We're seeing a little splintering right now because of what's happening in the Middle East.
Right.
And certainly, that's something that alarms some people in the Biden world. Are they going to stay with us? Are they going to stay home? But to this point, they're with the president. They have been with the president to this point, and it's of course there are issues of enthusiasm going forward. But again, if Trump's the name on the other side of the ballot, they like their chance.
Again, just to underline again, progressives, and of course they feel very strongly on some foreign policy issues, but again, have stayed together with the caucus.
And Biden has done a lot of progressive legislation. I think it's worth remembering that he has gone in there. The infrastructure spending is huge progressive legislation. You know, they're rebuilding trains and bridges and roads. And also, you know, he's worked really hard on student debt. And while this...
Hey, how's it like in Biden's world? I know I'm getting defeated just even talking about this. Type 3 for, oh, it's great. Full tank of gas, 3 square meals a day, roof over my head. Type 4, Jesus Christ, stop us this question. You know it sucks. We all know it sucks. It sucks. It's not great. Biden hasn't followed through on a goddamn thing.
Supreme Court has gotten in his way. He has continually tried to do creative things with student debt in a way that a president who was more conservative probably would not.
Oh, no doubt about it. Vanity Fair's Molly John Fast, thank you so much. As always, it's great to see you, Molly. Mika, what?
Yes, everyone's just patting themselves on the back. But here's the thing. When you have videos like this, there is growing dissidence happening.
NBC News has obtained exclusive footage of last night's protests outside the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee, as about 150 demonstrators calling for a ceasefire in Gaza clashed with Capitol Hill police, leading to at least 1 arrest and 6 officers being treated for injuries. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins us now. Gabe, this was quite unusual. There were some Congress members, including Hakeem Jeffries, I believe, other members of leadership trapped inside. Tell us what they're saying and, you know, what the police are saying today.
Hi there, Andrew. Good afternoon. Actually, yeah, we just spoke with Congressman Brad Sherman just a short time ago. He was among those people that were inside and had to be evacuated last night. The police barricades are still up outside of DNC headquarters this morning, Andrea. And that's right. There are 2 different perspectives on what happened here last night. There were Democratic representatives and candidates that were here for a campaign reception when they were interrupted by chanting. Now, the demonstrators say that they were here peacefully for a candlelight vigil, trying to draw attention to what they want to see in the Israel-Hamas war, a ceasefire. However, the police say that this escalated, that it turned into a violent gathering. 1 person was arrested and charged for punching a police officer in the face. The demonstrators, however, say that it was the police that escalated the situation.
And when you have videos of protesters and activists who probably voted for Democrats, it's quite clear that the Democrats are going to be losing more progressive support. I want to pull up another video here. It's what's happening amongst Democrats, especially in New Hampshire, where they are deciding to push forward and having the primary happening, defying President Biden's order of having South Carolina go first. See, this is trouble for Democrats, especially for Biden. He's made a lot of enemies, not only outside his party, but within as well. And independents and progressives might not show up.
Mike, I know you're in New Hampshire there. I want to switch over to the big news out of there. The New Hampshire primary officials announcing it will be on January 23rd, defying President Biden's order to have South Carolina go first. What does this mean for the primary season, and could this hurt President Biden?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in New Hampshire every 4 years. There's always a little bit of intrigue. Will New Hampshire keep its role as the first primary in the country? Well, this time, as Secretary of State Dave Scanlon made the announcement that New Hampshire would indeed be first again, it was even more pointed in terms of the language he used, sending a message to the National Democratic Party that he thinks voters should have the final say over who a nominee is and not the elites, as he put it, in Washington. This has created something of a divide for Democrats here in New Hampshire. There is Dean Phillips, a Minnesota congressman, running against Joe Biden in the primary here. Do they support him because they don't like that Joe Biden has taken the first in the nation primary away from them? Do they, as many people are trying to organize an effort here for a write-in candidacy for Joe Biden? That's a potential option for them. But Biden could not potentially win this primary being not on the ballot, and it could be further undermining his case for strength in the general election.
But Mike, before you go, could voters not write him in? Could he still potentially win, or is that not possible?
The Democratic Party is going to be one big shite show. It's going to be hilarious. It's going to be funny. And I do have a humorous video to share with all of you at the end in regards towards how the Democrats are not ready and how the Democrats are going to be shooting themselves in the foot. And anyone that's participating in this primary, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your goddamn time. And the voters, the constituents in New Hampshire and in Iowa have every right to be upset because for years they have always been the ones who are first. And now they're switching up. The Democrats are for South Carolina. This will cost them voters. So not only are they losing progressives and independents, but they also might be upsetting the rank and file of Democratic voters. This entire campaign is one big disaster. I said this election year will be interesting and funny. It won't be the most important. It'll just be interesting and funny. Those are the two words I hope come true and define 2024.
To run a successful write-in campaign requires a lot of money, and there's a grassroots effort here to make that happen. Unclear if it'll be successful, but consider this, Tom. Lyndon Johnson in 1968 was a write-in candidate. He got 50% of the vote. He beat the field. But Eugene McCarthy, a senator from Minnesota, little known, got 41%. That was a surprisingly high number. And 3 weeks after the New Hampshire primary, Lyndon Johnson announced he was not going to run for a second term.
Yep. I don't remember it, but I know exactly what you're talking about. McCarthy went on to get the nomination.
Well.
All right. Mike Memley, thanks so much.
So how do we correct this? How do we talk about the Democrats and Biden losing progressive voters? It's because you have a base that's not enthusiastic about Biden or the Democrats or their inability to follow through with their promises. You have voters, you have progressives, you have independents looking around wondering, what can we get from the Biden-Harris administration? What can we get from Democrats in general? Voter turnout's going to be key. And yes, we've played videos of how corporate media is turning up the fear of Trump derangement syndrome. I think this election year will not only be interesting and funny, but I think it's also important for all of you to keep your heads on a swivel, but we can also be somewhat entertained. Because what remains of the Democratic primary and the people there that are in it trying to get the nomination over Biden, good luck, but we can at least have a humorous note to end it on, where you have somebody like Jank saying, oh yeah, he's the one to divert the Titanic from its crash course. Are you ready to laugh? Because we need to laugh.
So what I'm trying to do is basically grab the wheel of the Titanic and move it. Move it. Let's go. I'm not going to voluntarily run into this iceberg. I don't care what every idiot Democratic leadership guy at the DNC in Washington thinks. Oh, I bet the Titanic doesn't sink. I better.
Why are you doing this, Jank? You know what? I've had a crappy year. I need to laugh.
The guy at 37% can win an election. Well, that's just feeding into Joe Biden's egomaniac. He's one of the most selfish politicians I have ever seen in my lifetime. He said that he'd be a transition president. He's 80 years old. 77% of Republicans don't even think he's going to make it through a second term. Get out of the race, Joe. That's why I'm in. And, look, everybody else is too polite. You got to push this guy out. The only thing he cares about is his ego.
He doesn't know where he's at, Jenk. You know that, right?
Ego. I want to be a two-term president. It's better for my legacy. Get out of the race, Joe. You're going to ruin the Democratic Party. You're going to ruin this country, and you're going to hand it over to a fascist. That's the number one reason I'm in the race.
You know what I like here about this photo? Let's have a deep dive analysis right here. You have three people here. You have the wonderful, incredible Brianna Joy Gray. You got Cenk Uygur right there in the middle of that crazy nutcase. And then you got Robbie. Oh, Robbie. He looks like he had a Snicker bar, right? And for some reason, I could see like a telepathic link between Bree and Robbie saying, we might have our arguments, we might have our disagreements, but at least we're not as crazy as this guy right here. I wonder how much they are holding themselves back from not laughing, and I got to respect both of them for pulling this off. This is a work of art. Robbie, Bree, I could not do what you did. I try. I might succeed, but God damn it. This is a good time to freeze right there. It's perfect. There you go. All right. And that's all that needs to be said. Just nothing but utter silence. Democrats, good luck. You're shooting yourselves in the foot. If you're running in the Democratic primary, you're not going to get the nomination. And if it's not going to be Biden, then they will probably pick either Kamala or Gavin Newsom or somebody else, somebody that won't inspire the voting base. And yes, there is a very good chance that Trump could win, but to which I have to say to the Democrats, you did this to yourselves. You did this to yourselves. You did this to yourselves. And you made it abundantly clear that you don't need my vote. And I'm going to tell my audience this. Vote how you feel like. The world's your oyster on this one. All I know is on election night, I'm cooking myself a ribeye steak. I'm going to have a nice little dinner and just watch the election play out. No matter how it plays, no matter what happens, I'm going to win because I'm going to be eating good.